Good morning and welcome to the USA Cares podcast. I'm your host, Matt Castor. I am joined as always by Alexis Becker. Good morning, Alexis.
Good morning, Matt.
Here we are again.
Every week.
Every week. Still surprised every time. But hey, what a week, and a special hello and good morning to our newest chapters of USA Cares in Mobile, Alabama, and Los Angeles, California, Northern Ohio, Dallas, Texas, and our Blue Star Families chapters. So if you're joining us from one of these chapters, welcome. We're so honored that you're with us, and so excited to have new chapters set up in your cities. So it's great news.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of people. There's already a lot of excitement. I know Alabama's already got a lot of people. I think they've got 10 or 11 members already in their chapter.
They're
just
started. That's awesome. Awesome.
The chapter formed in the shadow of the USS Alabama.
You've been keeping that in your back pocket.
I've been waiting on that one, you know?
Yep.
I just figured that was a good one.
Very nice.
Some people want to make sure I mention today, so I'm just get it out of the way right from the beginning. Carl's Jr., they're doing their Roundup campaign right now, Alexis.
Yep, it's getting ready to wrap up at the end of the month. I think there's only there's 28 days.
So
February.
If you're a West Coaster, you need to get to the Carl's Jr. today.
Yes.
And when they say, hey, do you want to round up your money, your purchase to help USA Cares, you say,
yes.
There you go.
Yes, I do. And even if they don't ask you, tell them you want to round up for voluntary families.
Absolutely.
Please.
And you'll see a little sign in the drive-through window. It's got a little kid on it.
He's so cute.
He is. And just make sure that you get your chance to give. So we appreciate you doing that, and we appreciate the support at Hardee's and Carl's Jr. They've been a wonderful partner of USA Cares and taking great care of their veterans.
Absolutely.
Another company I want to mention, kind of a newer partner for us, is Cushman and Wakefield.
Oh, yeah.
So Cushman and Wakefield, a global company, really going out of their way to support veterans, either through hiring or just encouraging them throughout the various cities that they work in. So they've stepped up. They've decided to be a part of USA Cares, and we're honored to have them come alongside us. We had Marla on last week.
We did.
So what's Marla's news? Because she hasn't told us, but I just saw this on social media.
Well, her episode from last week airs today.
Right.
And she got married.
She did. Shotgun. Yeah, shotgun wedding.
Yep.
So congratulations to Marla. That was a big surprise.
Yeah,
but,
we were not
a good
expecting
friend
that.
of USA Cares,
Yep.
for sure.
Very happy for her.
Yep. And I can't remember her husband's name, but congratulations. Michael. So Marla and Michael, congratulations. Okay. So yeah, great episode last week with Marla. I think that was the first time we really had a follow-up episode and really wanted to share the kind of the aftermath of her initial visit with us, which was a number of lives that she touched by sharing her story. And there's a lot of power in sharing your story, and just want to encourage a lot of people just to get it out, to talk it out, and share what you're going through, because it just might help somebody else. So, okay. So our guest today, I've been really excited about.
Yeah.
So this is a gentleman that I had the chance to meet and speak to a few times, and just really a fascinating story. I don't know how we're going to fit it all into one episode, to be quite honest with you, but we're going to do our best. So our guest today is Sergeant First Class Michael Rod Rodriguez. He is 7th Special Forces Group out of Fort Bragg, Green Beret, and a sniper. His story has been well shared. Many years in the military, I believe more than 20 years in the military, 10 deployments, served in some places such as Somalia, South America, Afghanistan, and just done some amazing work for our country. So I'd like to welcome to the USA Cares podcast, Mr. Rod Rodriguez. Good morning, sir.
Hey, buenos dias, everyone. I appreciate you having me on.
It is our pleasure. Well, I'm so excited to have you on. I think you have such a fascinating story, and not only your service to our country, which we so appreciate, but your whole family's service to our country. And it just means a lot to us. We're in a time in our country where I think we're once again reminded of the importance of people who are willing to volunteer and willing to serve our country. And So I just appreciate that. Thank you so much for your service. And if you don't mind, for those who may not know who you are, would you share a little bit about your past and what you've done and some of your military career?
Sure. So, with regard to like my family service, we're just, blessed to have that opportunity. And I like to tell people that, serving in the military was, my father's Vietnam, grandparents, World War II, me and my son, current and previous conflicts. But being a patriot is don't have to, put on a uniform and pick up a gun and run in harm's way. I like to tell people a lot, especially if I'm speaking to those that haven't worn the uniform, like, look, don't think we're that much different. I serve the country one way, you can serve your country another.
Yeah.
So I like to get that out there as often as possible, because I think there's misunderstanding between those that wore the uniform and those that didn't wear the uniform. We're still citizens. We're still, brothers and sisters, hermanos y hermanas. So try not to think that we're that much different.
It's a great point.
But as far as my service, was, again, I consider it a blessing to have served for 21 years in the United States Army. Lucky enough to deploy right after airborne school. I got to my first duty station at Fort Drum, 10th Mountain Division, and I was in the Army less than a year, and I deployed to Somalia. So that for me kind of set the tone for my entire career,
Wow.
And that let me know that I love wearing the uniform, and it also showed me not only the strength and might of our U.S. Armed Forces, but the compassion. And what I mean by compassion is, we don't just hunt down bad guys,
right?
And we're really good at it. Let's be honest. But we provide hope, security, safety across the globe. So when I saw what we did in Somalia, I was, kind of opened my eyes as a young 18-year-old to what we can do. So, I stayed in the military as long as I possibly could. I deployed to Somalia. I deployed to Haiti shortly after that in 94 as well, when there was a threat to the democracy down there.
Yeah.
And then in both of those deployments, I would see Special Forces guys like Green Beret. So I was a conventional Army guy at the time, and they were just different. Anytime we got somewhere there, they weren't like intimidating. They were just like very friendly, very professional. They were very comfortable in those environments.
Yeah.
And to me, that showed a sense of confidence and capability. So I was like, wow, I kind of want to be part of that. Maybe I could try. So shortly after that, I went to selection to become a Special Forces Green Beret, and fortunately, I somehow made it. And then the rest of my career was as a, in SF, Special Forces. I was in 18 Delta, which is the medic, Special Forces medic. But within, like you mentioned, I was a sniper. So some people hear I was a medic, and they're like, well, how are you a sniper? Well, in Special Forces, much like some of the other soft units, you have specialties, but you're that first, meaning I was a Green Beret first. Now, my specialty was medicine, but I was also a sniper, and ended up becoming the senior sniper on my detachment, and then ended up teaching at our sniper course here at Fort Bragg. So during Special Forces, I got to deploy in Central South America, doing a lot of different missions down there that we're involved in. And then, of course, when the war started in 2001, then, pretty much all of the Special Forces groups were involved, because each Special Forces group is regionally oriented. So 7th Special Forces groups is Central and South America. First group is Asia, and some of the groups were regionally oriented. But when there's conflict, everybody pitches in, right?
Yeah.
So that's when my deployments to Afghanistan, kicked off, and did that. And then after my last deployment, I was injured, and then I went to become a sniper instructor, and did that for a number of years until finally I was medically retired in 2013. So I've been out of the Army for a little while.
Well, just you've had such a career and just so many things that stick out. And I think from talking to you, one of the one of the things that I took away was just what a unique opportunity to be on a team, on a special forces team. But that's an exclusive community in and of itself. But then the sniper community is even a smaller one within that, correct? So I'm sure it's just a very tight knit group of people.
Very, very small. It's again, I was blessed to have the ability to make it through that course. It's not that easy.
Sure.
And it's super small. It's very specialized, and it's a lot of math. It's like weaponized math, right?
Yeah.
So I love math. I love numbers. It's just something I like. So it was a good fit for me.
That's awesome.
I would not make it.
No, you probably wouldn't, Alexis. Alexis would not make it through the sniper course.
Not at all.
So, well, that's remarkable. And I think about some of the places you've been, and your description of the special forces when you observe them, I think is really unique, because you're talking about the professionalism. And when they go into a potentially hostile situation and they can just kind of own the room, and they can just be cool and collected and calm, and we've been here before and we know what we're doing. And I think that's part of the reason why the U.S. is called upon so often in conflicts around the world to bring the peace, is because our forces are the ultimate professionals. And so I think that was a great description. What were some of those great moments that you remember from your career? So what were those things that really stick out to you, like the things you really like to reflect on?
Probably some of the stuff I did as a medic. So when we're, well, let me talk before that. So when I was in Somalia as a young 18-year-old, the job that I had was we would escort the food convoy from Mogadishu inland to distribution sites in a town called Baidoa in Walawain. And we had other little cities, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because at that time in '93, the warlords were seizing everything at the port, and that's when there was the famine that existed.
Okay.
So what I was able to do was, as a young 18-year-old, just provide security. I wasn't in charge of anything. I was barely in charge of myself. I want to be very clear when I talk about my experience in Somalia. Like maybe the dumbest private in the Army that I did. It's just completely like, what do you need me to do? Okay, I'll do that, and try not to mess it up too bad. So we got to go to those food distribution sites, and then you'll see, like in my door, I remember camps of children whose parents had passed, but they had these NGOs taking care of them. And, for me, it was incredibly impactful, because you see these children that are living moment to moment. I won't even say day to day. People talk about survival, or like, I'm surviving. I'm like, man, you don't know survival till you see a population of people that are living literally moment to moment. So being able to see us provide just sustenance for a day or a few days, and the safety and security provided, for me as a young kid, even now when I reflect on that stuff, it's incredibly impactful for me. So those are moments. That's like one. And then when I transitioned, or as I matured in the military, as a medic, we would go out to third world countries, whether it's the war-torn countries or some of the other countries that existed that you'll find special forces teams in, because at any given time, you're going to find special forces teams in 80 to 100 different countries across the world. So we're everywhere all the time. So I say that because I think people kind of misunderstand who we are and what we do.
Yeah.
So we were deploying 6 to 8 months every year before the war even started.
Wow.
Because that's just part of our job. That's our mission set. So when you find yourself in these places and you're doing a clinic, right? run clinics and people would line up. I mean, there'd be hundreds of people just coming to see me and the medic on the team we were lucky to have too. And just providing antibiotics, basic antibiotics that, we take for granted because they're available to us, that are life-saving. In certain regions of the world, penicillin still works. Whereas like here, we're like, I don't know how many generations of antibiotics we have to take before it's effective.
But it's like going back 100 years in some of those countries, right?
Medically
it really
speaking. Is.
Yeah.
It is. And so when you provide that, or, you're saving that child, that woman, that man, their life. And you just do this all the time. And then you don't really think about it while you're doing it, because that's what you do. Just be a good human, do the best you can and carry out the mission that was assigned to you. But I think it's later on, some of us will think about it and be like, wow, that was pretty, not like it's a feather in the hat, we brag about it, but for me, you ask impactful. Those are things that impact me the most. Yeah. A lot of people think, I want to assume, I guess, that a lot of the stuff in special operations, whether it's us or my Frogman brothers, the SEALs, or some of the other special units that exist, they're like, yes, we love a lot of the cool guy stuff that you think we love. I mean, it's awesome. It's keeps the adrenaline high.
Yeah.
But there's also those other moments like that I just described to you that are incredibly impactful to us as well.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, it's great memories and just the lives that were changed as a result, I'm sure. Who were those people that you've served with? Maybe you can think of one or two that just had a big impact on you in your career. Who were those people that kind of took you under their wing, walked you through? We didn't really talk about this, so hopefully there's somebody. But but was there anybody in your career that stuck out to you and maybe helped you advance?
Well, actually, there was like my very first team sergeant, a guy named Paul McKee. I remember when I graduated the Q course, and you get to your team and you're like, yes, you have experience, but it doesn't matter what you had before. When you walk into a team room, it's like, all right, man, you're starting over, right? You're the new guy.
Yeah.
Just shut up, listen, and try and keep up.
Right.
Well, I remember he was incredibly intimidating. He was like, he would do stuff. And then I'm like, why is he having me do this? I don't even know how to do that. Why would he challenge me that was well beyond my capabilities? And I was like, does this guy hate me? I'm like, really? Is he just trying to make me look like I don't know what the hell? But it wasn't until years later that I realized, like, no, he was forcing me to grow. He was putting me in uncomfortable situations in an environment where that's every day. That's what we expect you to do. Put you in an environment, put you in a situation where there's no guidance. Like, hey, get this done. Here's a ball of twine. Right. So just do it. And I remember that first year, I was just like, oh my gosh, this is not what I thought. This is not what I thought. But it was until years later that I was like, holy crap, that was incredibly impactful to me, the lesson, and when I got my initial briefing from him, he told me something. He was like, look, if you're on and I won't use any other profanities he used, but he said, look, Rod, if you're on a messed up team, messed up ODA, he goes, it's your fault. And I'm like, I didn't understand what he meant at the time. I'm like, how the hell is my fault? I don't know anything. I mean, I just know what I learned. How is it my fault? And again, that's something I thought of later. And then I realized what he meant, at least from my interpretation now, is that, look, everybody can contribute. If something's wrong and you're not doing anything about it, it's your fault. If you know something, step up. And that made me the leader I am today. Like legitimately, if I was to find one phrase that pushed me in a general direction, it's that, because it forced me to listen to everybody, the new guy or the old guy or someone that's not really, why would we listen to you? Look, everybody has something to offer.
Yeah.
Everybody can make an impact. And even like at the foundation, I tell people that all the time. Like I tell the team, like, look, I want to hear ideas, and I tell everybody that because I don't know everything. So that little counseling, taught me humility.
Yeah.
It didn't matter what level I achieve or where I am in the leadership ladder. I need to listen to everybody.
That's awesome. I love hearing people's stories about who inspired them and how they inspired them, because I've had the same situation in my life where the people who are hardest on me, I look back and I'm like, thank God they were, because it really helped shape me and mold me. So I love hearing that. Do you ever talk to him?
No, I have not. He left, and I'm not sure where he is. I should probably look him up, especially since I mentioned him. I should probably say, hey, I talked about you.
Well, we're going to track him down. Maybe we can send him this podcast stuff. Absolutely. That's awesome. So you come out of your career, and I remember seeing this video, and I'm going to fast forward a little bit here, but I remember seeing this video of this book, and it's sitting here with us, that President George W. Bush put out. And it was a series of paintings, which at the time I thought was kind of an odd thing. But then I realized it's for many people, the art is therapy. And for him, I think it was therapy as well. And I remember seeing this YouTube video of him going through his book and getting to your section and reading about you. And I thought, wow, that's powerful. How did it come to be that you were in Portraits of Courage?
Okay, so I had no idea you guys were going to pull the book out there today, so you kind of ambushed the book. So
we like to surprise you.
I want to perfectly clear that is not my book. I'm not taking credit for any of the boss's work.
No, it's President Bush's book. You just mentioned it, so and your picture's on the cover.
So, yeah, like I said, took some marketing risks doing that one, but so Portraits of Courage. How did I get in there? In 2014, I was invited to ride mountain bikes with President Bush. He does 2 events every year, pre-COVID, with wounded veterans and their families. One's a golf tournament, and the other is mountain biking. I am not a golfer. I'm like a Wile E. Coyote on the golf course. It's like a cartoon. So I went, and it was amazing. That was the first time I ever met the gentleman. It's probably, it still is, the only time when I met someone I don't know, I was starstruck. I didn't know what to say. Sure. He came to me and he said, "Hey, pleasure to meet you." I was like, I couldn't even get the word out. Then he went on to the next veteran, and I was like, what the heck happened? So anyway, I rode bikes with him in 2014, and he does it every year. And then 2015, every year they'll invite a couple from the previous year to ride again. So I got invited in 2015. And spend more time with him. It's amazing, very. He's probably what you would think he is, and even cooler and more humble and more loving and compassionate. So in 2015, President Bush and the staff at the Bush Center felt they needed more help with guiding their strategic vision on how to better serve post 9/11 veterans and their families. Well, they formed an advisory council, and there were 13 extremely, 12 extremely influential, impactful individuals, from General Peter Pace, 16th Chairman, Joint Chief of Staff, Joe DePinto, President of 711. Some pretty significant people. Well, they wanted someone of the population they were trying to address. So I became that 13th member because to sit on his council and help guide not only the president, but the Bush Center staff on how to better serve post-9/11 veterans and their families. And I think I was selected because I was in the Army for a while, but I'm also an Army dad. Yeah. I know what it's like to watch your son go to war. My son is deployed right now. Not his first rodeo, but it doesn't make it any easier for me as a dad this time. Right. And also, I'll go and talk about Kelly. I'm proud of her service, but my ex-wife served for 21 years as well. So I know what it was like to watch a spouse go to war. Yeah. But even, I call it my pre-Kelly time, I was a single father of some 2 young boys at the time, with sole custody. So when I would deploy, I would take my sons to New Mexico to stay with my father while I deployed. So then I also knew what it was like as a single parent with sole custody of your children to go to war. So I'm not saying I know everything. I'm not saying I speak for all those demographics. It's just I have experience in those areas with regard to service and the impact of service on a family. So I did that for 3 years over the time. And I'm getting to the book. I'm sorry. It's just turned into a long story.
No, it's giving it good context. So,
but I got to not only work with our 43rd Commander in Chief, but develop a friendship with him. A legitimate friendship where when we talk on the phone, we're just two guys talking about our grandkids or talking about art. Because I got involved in art therapy as well when I was at Walter Reed, and I want to call myself an artist. I love art. I think art is it's incredibly impactful. The healing aspects of art are profound. Art has an ability to convey a message, share an emotion, deliver really anything. Better than the written or spoken word, I think.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, art was a very tangible form of communication of humans, right? We've got cave paintings that prove that. So anyway, I don't want to turn this into an art podcast, but I could.
That's okay.
So he got into art. It was, it was Winston Churchill's book, Painting as a Pastime, inspired him to like, well, this guy can paint. I can paint too. So he, what he did was he started painting, got an art instructor, and then he progressed, and it was his third art instructor, a gentleman by the name of Cedric Huckabee, that inspired him to do this project because the president said, I want to paint something different. And it was Cedric that said, why don't you paint the faces of people that nobody knows?
Yeah.
And that's when he said, you know what? I'm going to paint the vets. And so that's what he did. He sat down and painted 98 portraits.
Wow.
Of veterans that he knew. These aren't just like, pick a random vet. These are all men and women that he knew, that he had a relationship with. So he did that, but then he took it a step further. For some of us, he wrote a brief essay about what he knows about us. So that's kind of how I got in the book. And I remember when he told me it was like a secret passion project. And I remember I saw him because I was one of the first portraits that he painted, and we were at an event. He goes, "Hey, Rod, good to see you. How are you doing, Mr. President?" He goes, "Hey, I painted your portrait." And I knew he painted. We talked about art, but I was like, "What? What do you mean?" And he's like, "Yeah, I painted your portrait." So, I knew he painted. He had painted all the world leaders he had met prior. But I was just like, he said, "Don't tell anybody. We're not telling anyone yet." I'm like, what do I do with that, right?
You can't tell me that and then tell me not to tell anybody, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay. So what it means to have that man paint me, that was in December 2015 when he told me that, because the book was released in the spring 2016.
Yeah.
I'm still in that moment. Oh, not 20. I'm doing my 2017. Oh my gosh, my years.
That's okay.
I messed up here. But anyway, it was December before the launch that he told me. I'm still in that moment because people ask me, what does it feel like? What's that like? And I'm like, I don't know. I can't express what that means.
Still kind of processing that, right? Yeah.
Right, exactly. And I don't think I'll ever fully get it, right? But that's kind of how I got the book. And if anyone doesn't have it, I strongly suggest you get it. It is the number one art book of all time, number one selling art book.
Wow.
Which is pretty amazing. But I think you should get it because the proceeds, he doesn't make any money off this book, for one. It supports the initiatives, the military service initiatives. It's all for fundraising. He's not making money off of this.
Yeah.
But I think they should get it and then download the audio version, because then what you can do is you can open the book, look at the painting, focus on the art, and then listen to the boss, listen to the president tell you the story or what he decided to write about that particular portrait, because you'll you'll, I mean, it'll hit different, and you'll feel the love that he genuinely has for all of us.
Wow. Rod, one of the things that we talk to when we have veterans on the podcast and we talk to them about their experiences, one of the common themes is how people deal with, maybe they're coming out of an injury and kind of trying to review what their life is going to look like now. And many of them have different therapies that they go to. Like, how much did that help you to have that art available after your injury and kind of reevaluating what you're going to be doing next? What did that do for you?
It was life-saving. I can't put it any other way. I mean, it really was. It allows me an opportunity, and my art isn't an escape for me. Mm-hmm. It's a form of expression. It puts me in a different frame of thought to where sometimes I can process what some of the stuff I carry around, but sometimes I can't. But art allows me to share that because I'm putting it into my piece. I'm putting it into my my art.
Wow.
I'm expressing myself, and it's the purest form of communication. Because the thing I love about art is it takes on a life of its own. So I'm just keeping it alive. You know, I struggle with trying to describe what art is for me, but I really believe that everybody's an artist. You know, up until my art therapist introduced me art at Walter Reed. And God bless this woman, because you know, I was in a good space at that time when I was up there.
Yeah.
And for me, art was like I was agnostic, you know, it's like art, that's not me. I'm not an art guy.
Yeah.
But you know, she was patient, and she introduced me to it. So art, it grows inside me. And art doesn't have to be a song. It doesn't have to be a poem. It doesn't have to be painting. It doesn't have to be, I work with metal, so it doesn't have to be something I've forged. Art can be how you express yourself as a parent, as a brother, as a teacher. So really, I was an artist in my entire life. My art was different because I'm an incredibly passionate person. So art is an expression of your passion. So my job, and some people may take this the wrong way, but you know, as a sniper, that was my art. That's still my art.
Yeah.
But it just took on a different way. It took the blinders off on true communication. And in art is selfless. It truly is. Someone asked me once, because I work with National Endowment for the Arts and trying to talk about the healing aspects of art. Like what is the similarity with wearing the uniform and art? And it was easy. It was easy to answer for me. I go, it's selfless. When you wear the uniform, it's selfless. And true art is selfless. There's no sharing it, you know. And I think people contort art sometimes, but that's my view on art. So art, like, saved my life.
Well, I love that you say that. You know, so many times people will say they're going through something, they're in a dark place, and they don't even know the words to say. They don't even know how to express themselves. And I've heard that. It's funny you say expression, because I've heard them say they don't know how to express themselves sometimes. And maybe this is an outlet for some people. But finding that outlet is so important, wouldn't you think? Whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly. Like art doesn't have to be what your traditional view of art is. It can be anything. Art can be in the gym. Like I love to exercise. It keeps me active. So I can keep up with my 3 sons and my grandson. Right. So, but art, that's another art form of mine. So art kind of just the selfless expression of your passion is what art is. And that's, you know, Melissa, I'm going to name her Melissa Walker, phenomenal woman. I love her to death. She showed me that. She taught me that. So I didn't have any barriers to communication.
Yeah.
There was no judgment. You know, and a lot of that judgment that we face is self-judgment. With art, there's no judgment. people are going to have their opinions, and some people like what I do, some people I don't. But I don't take that as a judgment. That's their opinion.
Yeah.
This is my art. It belongs to me.
Yeah.
This is my expression. It's mine. You can say whatever you want. That's fine. I welcome it. I want it.
Right.
But with expressing ourselves, I think if those of us that struggle in expressing ourselves just take that look, everyone's going to have an opinion how we express ourselves, but it's our responsibility to express ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
It's on me. I would love to fight everybody's battles for them, but I can't. Just like nobody can fight mine.
Right.
Art allows me to do that.
So, looking at the path of your career and kind of the road you've gone down, this next part I really am excited to talk to you about, and that's with the Memorial Foundation that you're leading. And because I remember as a little kid and as a child of the 80s going to Washington, D.C. and seeing this great big wall and starting to learn and starting to understand a little more the power and the power of volunteering for our military services by looking at this Vietnam memorial and seeing all these names listed on a wall and starting to understand some of those people volunteered, some of them may not, but starting to understand what sacrifice truly is and how people fought and died for our country. And just that, there's a lot of power there, and there's a lot of, you start asking questions, you start learning a lot more.
It makes it more real.
It does.
For somebody who didn't live it.
As a little kid standing there looking at that wall and just seeing, what are all these names?
I feel the same way when I went to New York in December and went to the, Ground Zero 9/11. And it was just such I can't even describe the feeling, but to look at every single name and actually be in that place and, having a place to go and read the names of all the different people. My husband and we've been to DC. We went to all the more memorials there too. And it was this kind of the same feeling. We were just surrounded by, I don't know.
It's emotional.
Yeah.
It really is.
Definitely was.
Yeah. It's overwhelming. It's emotional. So in speaking with you, Rod, and figuring out that you're helping lead the effort for a global war on terrorism memorial in Washington, D.C., I thought that's brilliant. That is absolutely brilliant. So talk about what you're doing.
Sure, of course. So let me give a little background because we're not very well known. I'm hoping everyone's going to figure out who we are here pretty soon.
Well, this is the biggest podcast in the world, so they're going to know now.
Yeah.
Awesome. So the foundation was started in 2015 by some like-minded veterans, patriots, and active duty service member. I ran into them in 2015. I'm not one of the founders. I want to be very open with that, people, because I've been involved for 6 years. I'm not one of the founders, but I ran into them, and they were like, hey, we need some help. We're just like what we're doing. So we're trying to build a national global on terrorism memorial in Washington, D.C. And I was like, yep, I'm on board. What can I do? So I joined the board of directors. So in order to build that, I don't want to turn this into a bureaucratic discussion on like all the steps involved in doing this.
There's a lot of steps, though. There's a lot of steps.
Complicated and
right.
I mean, you're building a national war memorial.
Yeah.
It's just all I got to say.
Right.
So we had to get an exemption from a law that stated a war to be over for 10 years in order for a national war memorial to be built. Now, that law was written in 1986. There's no way they could have forecasted we'd be in a multi-generational conflict with, when is it going to end? Right? So in 2017, we introduced a piece of legislation to get an exemption. It swept through the House and Senate by bipartisan, supported by everybody. And President Trump signed it into law in August of 2017. So in August of 2017, we became the only ones authorized to do it. Like nobody else can do this at this point. Anyone else could have stepped up. Any other nonprofit, any other 501c3 could have said, "Hey, we want to do this," but not anymore. Now it's ours. We're the standard bearer for this.
Yeah.
So then in 2017, we're like, "Oh my gosh, this is awesome. This is amazing. Now we got to do it, right? Beautiful idea.
Exactly.
Now we have to action it." So then in 2018, I stepped into the leadership role, And then what I had the foundation do, we conducted discussion groups across the country. I was like, look, we need to figure out what the people want, right? Like, I'm an expert in my service. That's it. That's where it ends. I'm not an expert in I don't even like talking about being a representative of other people. Like I mentioned earlier, I can speak with a lot of different viewpoints or lenses, but I'm an expert in me. I'm never going to say I'm an expert in anyone else's service or their experience, as particularly with regard to war. So we did discussion groups. We spoke with veterans, active duty service members, Gold Star families. We spoke with faith leaders, and we spoke with people who never deployed and didn't know anybody that deployed. They were never touched by the war outside of a minor at the airport. Then we synthesized all the data. We put it all together. We also collected information on, like, what should it look like? Where should it go? Should there be shrubberies, a fountain, a flagpole, a pond? Come on, I wanted to take an opportunity to get as much information as possible, because in the 24-step process to get this done, steps 9 through 12, which is site selection. So we also told them, like, look, if you want this thing built where all the other war memorials exist, that's called the reserve, we're going to have to pass another bill, because in early 2000s, they said no more new construction. It requires congressional approval, which meant, like, almost everything stopped. Like, nothing. They want to protect the space, and we respect the system. I'm not going to say good or bad about their decision. It's just, that's the system. That's how things are.
Yep.
So we told all these people, if you want to build where it goes, where you feel like where the other programs are, we have to pass another bill. But don't worry about that. That's our job. Like I said, that's our standard to bear. And after we collect, because if they, then it would go called Area 1, which is kind of in the fringe area. And, like, the Eisenhower Memorial was put up May of last year. The World War I Memorial had their flag raising ceremony last year. Those aren't in the reserve. They're off in other sites within our nation's capital. After we wrote the report, the vast majority of people said they feel that it belongs alongside the other existing war memorials, and I don't like passing bills. I'm not a fan of that, so I was like, I felt it belonged in the reserve, because it's our duty to honor the brave men and women that stepped forward and serve this nation with their lives. But everyone, I didn't want to move forward because that's what I wanted to do. We needed to know what to do, and that's what they wanted. So then in 2019 was when 2018, at the end of 2018, all right, I guess we're going back to Capitol Hill. And that's what we've been doing for the past 3 years, to try to pass a bill to get an exemption to build this war memorial and the reserve. Now, to provide a little context, nothing new has happened. Like, it's and it's sacred space. I get it.
Yep.
However, in December 27th of 2021, President Biden signed our bill into law. Now, we were granted authorization to build this memorial within the reserve, where we rightly feel it belongs. So we're still in steps 9 through 12 of building it. Now we have to find the actual site, but it's within the reserve. I feel pretty comfortable by the end of this year, hopefully a specific site. And then that's when we're going to start really getting into the design and build a functional piece of art, because this is going to be an art. And again, we talked about art. Maybe it's just serendipitous the way this conversation progressed, but that's the only way we'll be able to capture the experience, the service, the sacrifice, the sorrow, the pain, the grief, joy, within our nation's longest conflict. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, where we're at.
When you, let me ask you this: when you envision that little boy or little girl someday walking up to this memorial, what do you hope strikes them?
I hope they're impacted much much like I was when I went to see the Vietnam Wall.
Yeah.
And saw my cousin. So I have a cousin on the wall. You guys kind of talked about it. It was just pretty amazing. It's a teaching point, right? Yeah. You need to see the bigger picture. It's so easy nowadays to be brought into, your phone, right? This is your world. This is it. But I think people need to open their eyes and realize that, our nation's best, our sons and daughters, our hermanos y hermanas, our brothers and sisters, have committed to defending this nation, and it is our shared sacred duty to honor their service and sacrifice. That's our job. So I hope when people come to this, they realize that a very small percent of our population is defending the majority. If you look at numbers, 11% of the population served during World War II, 7% served during the Korean War, 4% served during Vietnam. Right now, at any given time, less than 1% of our nation is wearing a uniform right now. Just about a little over 3 million people Americans have actually stepped into the battle space, right? Stepped on the battlefield. That is an incredibly small percent of the population. So I hope when some little girl, little boy goes to this, they're taught that, this nation is full of those willing to give everything for them without ever knowing, without ever expecting anything in return. That's the beauty, right? That's it. That's power. I want them to see the strength, resiliency, commitment, and love that those men and women have for this country.
Yeah, I think that's it. I love that, because I think about a child looking at a name, asking why would they do that, and then learning about that process and learning what it means to serve the country, and learning what sacrifice is all about, and learning to be to have people relying on you and putting their trust in you. And those are all powerful things, and a lot of, like you said, what makes this country great. So I love. Do you have any anticipated date of when you hope that this monument will be built?
So we are hoping. Like I said, this is a sliding scale, right? It all depends. I mean, anything can happen.
We won't hold you to it.
COVID slows down significantly.
Right.
So we're hoping to maybe break ground in the next 4 or 5 years. And then the only timeline I can give you, as far as I feel pretty comfortable, is construction will take 18 to 24 months.
Okay.
We have our executive architects that guide us on this, and they're experts in this space. And that's not numbers I'm just pulling out of the air.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where we're at. So hopefully in 7 years, 8 years, maybe sooner. I would love to be able to say, hey, we're a year ahead of schedule. We're 2 years ahead of schedule. All that is going to depend on the support. It's going to depend on fundraising. Actually, a lot of it's going to depend on fundraising. So we'll kind of see where it goes. But we're running at this thing 100 miles an hour.
So talk about that for a minute. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Talk about that for a minute, though, because I know fundraising is a key part of this. And as a fundraiser myself, I know how difficult it can be. So if somebody's listening and they're like, this is a project that I want to get behind, and they decide they want to contribute to what you're doing, how can they do that?
Oh, thank you for the opportunity to talk about that. Right. I am not very good at fundraising. That's why we have some phenomenal people who are. So I would just really, whether someone wants a fundraiser or not, I would really like anyone listening to just go to our website, www.gwotmemorialfoundation.org, and just check us out. There's opportunity to donate, but there's also opportunities on there to learn about us, to learn our progress, to learn what we've done, to learn where we're at, to learn where we're going, and to see how they can help, and see how they can contribute their time, talent, or treasure in support of this sacred mission.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I think who wouldn't get behind that, right? I mean, it's phenomenal what you're doing. So I would encourage everybody to check out that website and take a look at it. So let me shift gears one more time here. What we on this podcast, we talk a lot to the veterans who are coming out. So we have a large population of people who joined after September 11th, who are now retiring in their from their military careers, and they're going through this awkward transition from a military career to a civilian life. Not an easy transition by any stretch of the imagination. What after all your experiences, your career, what advice would you give them? What encouragement would you give them?
Well, I first and foremost, thank you for understanding that it's challenging. It's extremely challenging. And whenever I get the opportunity to talk to hermanos y hermanas, my brothers and sisters that wore the uniform after I did, I'm always honest and be like, look, it's gonna be hard. And I went through an identity crisis. I think everybody does. We have socially, we have this master status, right? This is who you are. Like when someone's a doctor, they introduce themselves to you. They say, "Hey, I'm Dr. Rodriguez," or "Hey, I'm whatever." Right? That's their master. Their master status, right? As social creatures, that's what we do. But I think they need to understand or do the best. And I still struggle with this. Is like my service did not define me. Right? It helped create the individual that's sitting here talking to you guys today, but it doesn't define me. I'm also a father.
Yep.
I'm also a brother. I'm also a son. I'm also a friend. I run a nonprofit. There's a lot of other things that I'm an artist, right?
That's right.
There's a lot of other things that make me who I am. Nothing could have empowered me more than serving as I did. Like really. And I hope they look at their service as a strength. They've received an education that no educational institute on the planet can give them. Like really, nothing can teach you what we're in the uniform does. So I think that it's going to be hard. Understand that they have certain talents, and do the best they can to serve this nation, because I depend on them. Yeah. We as a nation depend on them. It's funny, so there's something, it's actually right here on my desk. So my grandfather served in World War II, and those that served in World War II built the nation what it is today. I don't think anyone can argue that, right? Right. The greatest generation.
Right.
So I'll read this real quick because it has application today. I was reading this yesterday. To you who answered the call of your country and served in its armed forces to bring about the total defeat of the enemy, I extend the heartfelt thanks of a grateful nation. As one of nation's finest, you undertook the severe task one can be called upon to perform, because you demonstrated the fortitude, resourcefulness, and calm judgment necessary to carry out that task. We now look to you for leadership and example in further exalting our country in peace. Signed, Harry Truman. Now that was written 70, almost 80 years ago. Yeah, it's just the same message today. So as I'm depending on you, we are depending on them coming out of uniform to continue to make this nation great, to continue to build this nation up. So if they feel like losing their team or they're losing their identity, they're not. We're still familia, right? We're still family.
Right.
You're moving on, and you're gonna continue your leadership.
Yeah.
So that's what I tell people all the time. It's like, look, I need you to do what you did. Maybe not with a machine gun anymore, but I need you to use those problem-solving skills, that leadership that you learned, in whatever it is you do. Yeah. However you decide to serve your community. Like we started this conversation, being a patriot isn't always just wearing a uniform, picking up a gun, and running in harm's way. You can serve your nation a number of ways. Yeah. Now that you've taken the uniform off, it's your responsibility to continue that service. I need it. You need it. We don't. So that's what I tell them, whatever it is. And when you listen to people give you advice, keep in mind that what worked for them may not work for you.
Right.
Figure out what's going to work for you and make it work for you.
Right.
You have a responsibility to do that. Like I think it was Bruce Lee that said, he would find the best forms of the art, and then he would make it his own.
Yeah.
Do the same thing.
Yeah. I love that.
I think once a veteran realizes that, there nothing will stop him.
One of the biggest tragedies, and the reason that USA Cares goes on the way we do, is because we lose too many of these veterans every day. We lose too many to their own hand, and it's something that we're fighting very, very hard. And it's that sense of purpose that you describe, finding that thing, finding that part of you, that new identity, that is so key. And I can't stress enough, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but that's a season. It's a season in your life that you're transitioning out of the military and into that new identity. And that season will pass. And even though it may seem dark or bleak in the moment, it will pass. And just having the patience and the fortitude to get through that moment.
Yeah, it's always going to be there. That's the other thing is, I call it my shadows, right? The things I carry around, and I'm very open about my fight with PTS. I'm not ashamed of the fact that, I spent 8 weeks in an inpatient psychiatric facility.
Yeah.
I'm not ashamed of that.
Sure.
I'm not ashamed of the fact that I was on a number of different types of medication because I needed them at that time. I'm human. They have been exposed to things that will make anybody feel what they feel. They need to understand that how they feel is normal. And look at it as hard to grasp, but look at it as a strength. Because the opposite, if you didn't feel anything for the stuff that you experienced or stuff you did, you'd be a sociopath. I don't think that's a good thing ever.
That's a great description. And go ahead.
Exactly. No, I was just agreeing. That's exactly.
I admire you so much for talking about your transition and your experiences, because it's so many times somebody will seek treatment and they'll feel alone. They'll feel isolated. They'll feel like they're the only one going through that, not realizing how many people have also raised their hand and say, I need help.
Yeah, it's terrifying to say. Those are 3 words nobody likes to say. I need help.
Yeah.
Right. Yep. Nobody likes to say that, but we do. And I think especially veteran community, understands that post-traumatic stress is not a veteran issue. It's humans.
Yeah.
Whenever you say today, someone says you hear PTSD or post-traumatic stress, most people think about us, and that's good. There's a lot of awareness for us, but it doesn't mean we're different than others that deal with post-traumatic stress. Post-traumatic stress is a response to some extreme exposures, and we'll just call it that. So it's hard. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be, but the epidemic or pandemic that exists with suicide it's terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying. And it's this is hard for me to discuss because it hits home for me.
Sure.
And when I say it hit home, in June of this year, will be 2 years since I lost my fiance to suicide. She served in the Air Force, and I'm still dealing with that, dealing with my own issues, but I think together we can get past all this.
And talking it out makes all the difference, doesn't
it? It helps. It helps, but it's you got to find what works for you.
Yeah,
you do. You got to understand that how we feel is normal. Mm-hmm. I'm not broken. People that feel a certain way, they're not broken. It's okay to feel the things we feel, but we need to fight them. Like I said earlier, I can't fight for you. I would love to. I'm not even joking. I would love to fight these battles for everybody listening right now, but I can't. Just like nobody can fight my battles for me, and that goes back to, if they're looking for a reason to be here, I need them here.
Yep.
I don't know them, but I love them. I mean, they need to be here, and they need to understand that.
Absolutely.
Or try to understand that. I'm not telling anyone they need to do anything that sounds not good, but
we need them. That's for sure.
Hard.
You said it well earlier. You know, we need them. They strengthen this country. They make our communities what they are, and they're so important to us. So, is there anything you want to anything else you want to make sure you mention today before we wrap up? Is there anything you want to talk to about either the Memorial Foundation, any of the work that you're doing, or any other messages you have for our veterans?
Sure. I mean, if the same thing, please check out the foundation. Look at what we're doing. We're building the most broad, diverse, and inclusive war memorial ever built. And what I mean by that is we're recognizing everyone's service. So I'll share a piece here, and I hope this doesn't take too long. But while we're over 7,000 KIAs of those in uniform, we've lost over 3,400 non-uniform service members on the battlefield. We're recognizing that loss. We're recognizing that service. We're also recognizing the service of the family in the building this memorial. The most difficult deployment for me weren't the 10 that I went on. It was watching my son go to war. I couldn't have done what I did had I not had my father supporting me. So I'm doing the best I can right now to support my son in the same capacity. So we're recognizing the service of the family. Just get on the website. I'm sorry, I'm trying to keep my train of thought here.
You're fine. You're fine.
Yeah, please just check out the memorial. Reach out to us. I want to hear from you. I want to hear your ideas. I want to hear what you think we should be doing and how we should be doing it. Obviously, we're going to have to make decisions that you may not agree with. That's right, okay. Right. I'm not crazy and thinking I'm going to make everybody happy, but we're going to try. So please just reach out to us. And for those that are struggling, I love you. Like, really, I mean that. I may not know you, but I love you.
That's perfect. Yeah, I love that. We'll be sure to share the website too. We want people to check it out. We want people to support you and support your initiative. I think you're doing great work. I'm glad we met you, Rod.
No, I'm definitely happy to have this conversation with you guys. I hope I can come back later on and give you an update on the memorial.
Absolutely.
And see how you guys are doing.
Come back anytime. Next time, maybe we'll get you to Kentucky. Maybe you can come sit in here with us.
That would be cool.
We'd love to have you. So, man, it was a real pleasure. Thank you for your service. It's really a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you, guys. I hope you and everybody listening has a blessed day.
Thank you so much. Well, Alexis, before we wrap up this episode, I want to make sure we mention our friends at the Speakeasy Podcast Network.
Of course.
Talk about Speakeasy for a moment.
Well, Speakeasy Podcast Network is the reason why we are here every single week. They are fantastic. They make us sound good. They coach us through some of these episodes, and they want us to continue to grow and do better. And we love their support and appreciate all that they do, and would come highly recommended if your business has if you want to start a podcast, call these folks up and they'll get you going.
SpeakeasyNetwork.com.
Yep.
That's the website. It took a year, but I finally learned it. And so check them out. The guys here really, they take people like us and they make us sound better. Yes. So thank you to Robert and team and all the great work that you guys do. If you want to learn more about USA Cares and the work that USA Cares is doing, go to usacares.org. Check us out. If you can donate, we always need the support. We have a lot of veterans coming to us every single day saying that they're in crisis, that they're going to lose their home, they're going to lose their vehicle, they don't have a job, and we're stepping up and supporting these people every single day, but we need you to help us as well. So hit that donate button, become a sponsor of USA Cares. We would just be honored to have you come alongside. While you're listening to the podcast, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Make this part of your weekly routine. We would love to have you join us every single week. So from Alexis and I, thank you all so much for listening, and we look forward to being with you again next week.